Yes, thank you. Yeah, I guess I wrote hello again. I guess grammar is okay, right? Yes. Alexander Alyokhin, one of my favorite. Karl Schlechter, Lasker, Botvinnik. Lot. There is not only one. Lot of. My first book was of Alexander Alyokhin. About Alexander Alyokhin. So I wanted show you this one game, single game, what they played between each other. It was played in one Olympiad in 1962. We remember that Botvinnik was born in 1911, so he was 51 years old, and Fischer was born in 1943, so he was 19 years old. And unfortunately, they never played again. There was some try to organize a match between them later, but it never happened, unfortunately. And 10 years later, after this game, after Olympiad, Fischer became world champion. 1972. He was 29 years old. So, and very interesting, this first clash between first and single clash between these two gladiators or titans of chess game. Thank you for following. I don't have my any favorite chess game ever. I like them all. You mean my own game or in general? In general, I don't have any special choice. All right, so let's go. Botvinnik is white, and he goes c4. Yeah, g6. Fischer was playing actively Greenfield. Also King's Indian, we know. So d4, knight f6, knight c3, d5. And he says that in this game, Botvinnik says he finally would use his analyze, which he prepared against match versus Smyslov in 1958. So 4 years before this current game. Yes, Frank, I'm back. e5, knight f3. Yeah, this was a favorite continuation of Botvinnik against Greenfield. Bishop g7, queen b3. This line here was playing actively against Smyslov too. He says that Fischer knew, of course, that I'm playing this. Michele, buonasera. Mocked. Yeah. This is called Ragozin system. And they both go into Smyslov variation in this. So, variation before castle, e4, bishop g4. This is Smyslov's idea. He put attacking this knight, which protects center, wants to transfer this knight here and over here, and put his pressure on the center. Good evening, Katsenchinken. Yeah, this is a serious game. Only a single game between these two great champions. Botvinnik said that Smyslov's variation is one of the most original. His method against on center. Bishop e3. So this was his analyzing. He follows knight d7. He prepared this against Smyslov match in 1958. So only now he used bishop e2. And now Botvinnik said maybe long castle is more perspective here. And later he also made conclusion that queen b3 was maybe better here. Okay, this is some technical nuances, opening nuances. We will not stop here. Bishop e2, knight c6. Theory recommends to play first knight b6 and later make clear where this knight goes. So knight c6 played by Fischer. Now they have threat. Attack queen, then take here and take here. So first threat of the game, rook d1. Obviously, Botvinnik improves. Knight not improves, I want to say supports this pawn. Knight b6, queen c5. And he says that only after queen d3 it leads only to equal position, because black can take on f3, ef, then play e5 here, and in case of d5, knight penetrates to d4. Very nice square here. Hello Diamantori, how are you doing today? Queen c5, this was his idea. Yeah, queen d6 by Fischer, and h3 by Botvinnik here. In case of d5 here, Fischer would play knight e5 probably. Knight b5, then he change here, and black would liquidate all threats with c6 move here. In case of dc, we can take and protect here. This attacked, center attacked. Like it's okay. Why? He played h3 to make clear this bishop. He takes on 3 and gf. In case of bishop f3, as there would be unpleasant queen c5, dc, and knight c4 here. Position. That's why gf. This bishop has to control this square. Rook f d8 was played. But if I'm not wrong, there was a game of Karpov Timan, I guess, or I forget with whom played Karpov. I guess Karpov win first against someone, and then Timan maybe improved. I think it was bishop f3, queen f. How it was? One second. Remember. This c8. How it was? I guess it was e5 here. Not h3, but e5, I guess. And something like this. After queen c5, dc, bishop f3, knight. He somehow sacrificed pawn. I don't remember exactly how it was, but something like that. Maybe you can find in Google. Just base this variation. I guess it was Karpov's later improved somehow, and then Timan, I guess, or he found how to equalize game. But okay. So h3, bishop f3, gf, rook f d8 was played. And he says that exactly this position he analyzed 4 years ago, this Olympiad. And then during the Olympiad, Furman told him that e6 was a good move, where black has good chance to equalize. But during this game, both him and Fischer didn't know about this move. So rook f d8. Now white is trying to have initiative here, to win initiative. So d5 he played here. In case of knight b5, he said there will be queen c5 move, dc, and knight a4, attacking this pawn. We see that the bishop is open this diagonal, and black has a very nice active play of the pieces, and not e5 here because of queen c5, and after dc, knight d7. This attacked after a4 g5 here, and we see that white center is collapsing here. He played d5, attacking this knight, and also bishop protects now this queen. This was his analyze. Knight e5, knight b5 he played. He said, of course, bad was to play f4 here. That's in chicken. Yeah, maybe, but okay, I don't want to do it now. f4. No, 60 memorable games. It's a book of Fischer, and now we have evening of Botvinnik. So this is Botvinnik book. f4. So this white has to go away against this kind of threats here. No, 1 second. What I'm talking about? Knight. Now f4 was bad in this position because of knight c4. And in case of bishop c4, black takes on e5, then knight c4, and attacking here. For example, e5, knight b2. After rook d4 to try to control these squares, and f6. And black is perfect here. Yeah, that's why he played knight b5 here. Queen f6 by Fischer, attacking here. And f4. Yeah, only way to protect this pawn. Only proper way. And knight d7. And this was all played quickly by Botvinnik because it was his analyze, and he played e5 here. Because queen c7, queen b2 would be perfect position for black here. Yes, they not allow castle. Pieces are active, rook c8 with very strong initiative. But he played e5. This was his analyze. And when he was analyzing this position, he was considering queen h4 move here. And after queen h3, g5, because this center is very strong. Black has to break it, and rook d4 here. With very strong initiative, because gf, then rook f4, and problems with queen here. Also, he analyzed queen f5 move here. Then queen b4. This under attack. Then a5. Thank you for following. Then queen d4. This position. c5. dc, bc. And bishop g4 attacking here. Queen has only square on c2. And after this, rook c1. White is better because queen e4 with change and rook c6. And in case of c5, there would be queen d7, strong move. And here he made conclusions that white has advantage. Yeah, black has to take d7. Bishop is offside. Pawns are weak. Always a4 can support, so we play king e2, a4 in case of rook b8, and bishop is strong here. But Fischer, after thought, he surprised him completely. He take queen f4. Look at this move. And he says that he completely missed this idea during analyze, and he was shocked during the game and could not find the best continuations. And that's why he made a few inaccuracies in following game. He take bishop e4. The point that queen b6 unfortunately doesn't work here because of queen b4 check. No, not queen b4. First queen e4, strong move, attacking this this rook, queen cannot go because of rook. And in case of f3, we first give check here, only move bishop d2, and then give check here. And no, 1 second. So yeah, we cannot do like that because queen f2. First give check here, of course, bishop f2, and then here, and then we take this queen. And that would be a punishment in case of queen b6. That's why he played bishop f4. Knight takes on c5. Knight takes on c7. Rook goes to c8. d6, Botvinnik played, because we cannot go of this pawn. After d6, ed was played. ed, bishop b2. So we see that Fischer wins pawn, but white holds two strong bishops. This pawn is strong. Objectively, probably it should be close to equal. Castle, knight b d7. So Botvinnik says that black has a pawn up, but white pieces are very active, especially this knight and rook here. Now black wants to prepare bishop e5 move, try to exchange this very strong bishop. But they made inaccuracy. A right continuation for black would be to go with another knight, according to Botvinnik. And in case of bishop f3 attacking here, then bishop e5. And after bishop e5, knight e5, bishop b7. And after rook b8, close to equal. But Fischer plays inaccuracy, knight b d7. And rook d5 strong move, controlling this important square. b6 he played, supporting knight, but we see that light squares became weak here. And now he played a bad move, bishop f3 here, inaccuracy. Because this bishop does nothing on this diagonal. Instead, he had interesting idea to play bishop c4 here and then try to bring this rook to this square and attack this. Even when bishop will be here, it's still possible because this pawn will be very strong. And Fischer, after bishop c4, considered that he thought that he can force draw with knight e6. After bishop h2, knight d4 in this position beside the knight f3. And also knight f6, another option. Rook b1, bishop c3, rook c1, c1, and bishop b2, and just repeat the moves. This was his bishop idea. Yeah, but the point that Botvinnik says it's absolutely not clear why white has to retreat on h2. Yeah, I also had this question. Simply bishop g3 they can do. And in case of knight d4, play rook d1, because there is, when bishop here, there is a fork. But now there is no fork. Maybe Fischer would continue analyze with this move, but it's definitely not draw. Rook goes back on f4. Something means rook f5, rook d5, rook f5. Considerable here. Thank you for following. But instead of this interesting variation, Botvinnik played bishop f3, inaccuracy. Knight e6. So Fischer is trying, of course, to exchange this very annoying knight here. And knight e6, another inaccuracy by Botvinnik. He thought that alternative move bishop h2, knight d4, bishop g2, and knight f6 even worse for white. But then Efim Geller showed variation after the game that he could sack the exchange, play rook e1, and very active pieces compensates deficit of exchange. This is his bishop very strong, very strong here. And Fischer was not agree with this variation, and he continued with only with one move, bishop c5, and he thought that black is much better. But knight d5, he said, was a move here. What is knight d5? I don't know. If we take and then take here. I don't understand. Maybe instead of rook e1, rook d1. Maybe it's in book is a mistake. Maybe rook d1 is more logical to attack bishop, and now d5. I guess he means, because we cannot take this pawn now. Knight d5, even bishop d5 we can take. Yes, bishop d6, then we take, and bishop f7. But still, it's pawn up. Yeah, quite strange variations. Okay, we will not fix again this too much attention on these variations. So bishop f3, knight e6, and he take on e6. And after this, it will be a technical position where black has pawn up, and only hope for white in this endgame was this knight. Once it's gone from the board, black's position became much better. Rook d3. So now Botvinnik has to be very careful to not lose immediately the game. Knight c5, rook goes to e3, attacking this pawn. e5, attacking here. And Botvinnik was hoping that Fischer would play bishop d4, and after rook a3, attacking here, e5. And then he wanted to play bishop g5, rook d6, and bishop e7 here. Because the rook attacked, and if you go here, then bishop g4. But still, after rook d7, I guess this is a huge advantage for black. We can improve king. It's a very unpleasant game still. Then later maybe we'll push these pawns, because 2 pawns for not huge, but advantage definitely. But Fischer plays more practically. He plays e5. He wants to exchange. His bishop to this and this pawn for this. Yeah, so it's his best move definitely. And after, he has to agree for this exchange. And imagine this position Botvinnik saved against Fischer. Fischer was very young, impulsive, so we see what happens. Rook e7. Hello, Kes. How are you doing? Rook d7 was played here. We need to exchange this active rook. And bishop g4 was again inaccuracy here. Because rook endgame is lost for white. Much stronger was to play rook e1 immediately here. King f8 to control this square. And then bishop d5. And white still can make resistant defense. But instead, he played bishop g4, rook d7. This is just lost, yeah? Rook takes, and king will be cut off from the queen side, and queen will go, and this will make passer here. Thank you, Kes. Thank you. I think it's okay. That's why he played rook e1. He's not exchanged, so this is just wasting of time. King f7, king g2. In that variation, he would have check here. Now he don't have. Again, maybe he actually should play bishop e6 and transfer it for more active diagonal here. So, thank you for following. But he played g2 and knight c5 immediately by Fischer. Control this square. Play rook e7 probably. That's why he played rook e3. We have rook on active third rank. Rook e7. Rook f3 check. Yeah, this is a little inaccuracy, you know. Little, but that's how you're losing the game. Little, and then lost. King g7. Rook c3. So we understand that if black will exchange rooks or knight to bishop in good circumstances, they are winning. Especially if rooks will be changed, it's completely lost. So white has to be careful with exchanges. Rook e4 by Fischer, bishop d1. So Botvinnik transfers this bishop to ideal square on c2, where he controls this square. Also look here. So Botvinnik do maximum what he can. Rook d4. He says that after this little inaccuracy of my young opponent, I really had some hopes for defend this endgame. And he was anticipating rook e1 in this position. And now bishop cannot reach to his best destination because of rook c1 with a pin. Yes, and after rook e1 he would go here, and then he will activate king and win this game. Thank you for following. But instead, Fischer played rook d4. Probably he was relaxed. He was thinking that he win anyhow. Bishop c2, king f6. In more mature period, he would never draw this position. But king f3, and now again a very strange plan by Fischer. Specialists like Capablanca, for example, he would bring this king on queen side and then push this pawn where they have advantage 2 versus 1. Instead, Fischer tries to play on the king side. This was wrong. What do you mean maximum? I have maximum. I cannot make it more. I cannot scream. I'm sorry if you don't hear me. I cannot do better. Okay, Jigster does say it's fine, so okay. So king g5 he played. Of course, he also writes that king has to march here, then push pawns and win. Technique. But king g5, very strange decision. King g3, and now because of this slight inaccuracy of black, we will have very, very interesting rook endgame after all. And he played knight e4 check. And Fischer saw that he's winning very easily rook endgame. And he was making an angry face. Why Botvinnik is still continues to play? Why not resign? And instead, he could make a zugzwang here in this position. Play rook b4. Because if rook goes, then rook c4 here. Bishop cannot move because of fork. If king goes here, then probably he gets this square. And the idea, king h4, king g2, then knight e6, knight f4. And in case of a3, rook d4, f3, then a5. And zugzwang. And what to do here? This rook controls this square, and this square. And after rook e3, rook c4 would be, and then we march these pawns. I don't understand what's the problem with my microphone all the time. Really, I don't understand. Before was not any problem. All right, so instead, he played knight e4. The knight e4, of course, it takes. And what's going on here? Okay, guys. So he says that in the game already was made 42 moves, but still they did not adjourn the position, the game. And he did not adjourn because he thought that following game over the board was white would have more chances to make draws than after analyze. And Fischer, with all his behaviors, he was like very angry, grumpy against Botvinnik that he did not, that Botvinnik is not resigning in this position. He wanted to show all spectators of Olympiad, you know, teammates, that this position not requires any analyze. So let's see what happens. Rook a3. Rook c7 was immediately losing because rook a4. In this position is lost. because if we take rook a2 to compare what happens in game, white is million times down. Rook c2, a passive defense slowly will lost. We play rook a3 and push these pawns forward and win. So rook a3, that's why taking this pawn. And it's very important not allow rook a4, push away this rook to the passive position. And now probably Fischer should play a5 here. And in case of rook b3, rook b4 here. And pawn endgame is hopeless according to Botvinnik, because after f4 he goes king f5 with idea penetrate, king f3, then king e6 here. Again we go here, king e4, d6, d4, and this pawn is decisive factor. He plays b5 and takes control over this important square, and then white is losing opposition here. Then king will penetrate here, and this will promote. But Fischer did not spend any seconds here. He played rook e7, more obvious move, but a5 was strong. Rook f3. So Botvinnik is very careful. First, he not allows rook a4. Second, he not allows activization of this king. If this king will get to the center, game will be over, yes, because rook easily protects these pawns, and this supported by king and rook will be easily win. Yes, that's why rook f3 cut off king from the center. Thank you, Chelsea. And what's going on here? He played rook c7 here. And he says that in case of king h6, king g7 with following rook f7, king f6, and so on, slowly white should try to find another chances to survive, but probably they would not find. That's what he beat up. That he played rook c7 and a4. This was number 45 move, and in it they should adjourn the game, and Fischer should wrote down the move and put it in envelope and then give to arbiter, and they would continue next day. So after the dinner, Botvinnik says they started a long analyze at night. One of the longest analyze what in his career he made here. Not only he, but also whole Soviet Union team, of course, was supporting. He says that rook c4 was not scary him, because now white would have a5. It's very important to sacrifice this pawn and destroy these connected pawns. And b5 will be rook f7, we see, attacking here and here. And in case of ba, then rook f7 again, using that king is cut it from center. These two pawns are attacked. a6 would be the option. And after a6, h4 check. Put king in the corner. Of course, not in h5 because there is a mate in 1. And rook d7. And this is probably a drawish position here. After a4, he will attack this pawn here. The question is, why not rook f6 actually? This is my question. Why we need rook d7 move? Immediately we will. Yeah, this is probably draw, because after a4 we take it here. So black has to activate king from this side, but in that case we give check and win this. And if this and f4, king g4, king, yeah, this will be draw. Also, king h6 instead of rook c4 is not dangerous for white in this moment, because rook d3 here wants to play, rook c5, then h4, rook a5, and rook d4, and he protects this pawn. But what to do for white if in this position Fischer writes rook c5, and actually this is what Fischer writes, and game was adjourned. So long time, a future was in very dark colors for whole team, including Botvinnik. But then Efim Geller found unique idea here of find the chances to make draw. So after they analyzed this Efim Geller's idea long hours, then Geller went out to sleep, and Botvinnik continued a little bit more analyzed to make clear all details. So what's going on here? This is unique endgame. So rook c5 played by Fischer. Rook, sorry, this rook is here. This position, I mean. Rook c5, rook f7, and rook a5. This is the idea of Fischer. So he wants to trade this pawn for this. And now here Geller's idea. He played rook h7, double exclamation mark here. And Fischer later was writing that he underestimated this continuation of white. And the point was that while they was analyzing whole night, Fischer was sleeping. So he was thinking that the game is winning easily. So what white is doing? They give this important pawn, and black has two passers connected pawns, but white is using that this king is a little bit far away from the main battle 10. So what happens here? He played rook a4, only move. h4 check. This was Geller's idea. King f5. For example, if Fischer would play king f6 here, rook b7, strong move, very important move, because now black cannot move these pawns immediately. And after rook a5, we just slowly move e5, a6, and rook a4, and slowly move. Then he wanted to play king g4 here. After b5, f4, a6, we see how black is like tortoise, slowly goes forward. Rook b6 check, king goes f7, and rook b7 check. And this is a draw, because once king leaves pawn, we will win. And then black also has to be careful, because white has two passers here. That's why Fischer, in this position, he played king f5. And rook f7 check, very important check here. Kick away this king from this pawn first. And then rook g7, attacking pawn. In case of king f6, we transpose to that variation what I just showed. And that's why rook a1, Fischer trying to protect this pawn from this idea. Yeah, and king f3. This was everything analyzed. They analyzed this everything. And Botvinnik asked what to do for black here. So we already seen that king f6 leads nowhere after rook b7. It's too slow plan. And he says that if Fischer would analyze precisely this endgame, he would probably reach this position and would play most unpleasant move by black here, king d4. But he was absolutely sure that he will easily win this game, and he continues b5, which is not so strong. And after this move, Botvinnik, when it was early morning after a long night, he found very good answer, not rook g6 here. But h5, this was the point. Look at this strong move. We cannot take because of rook g5 check, and we eliminate this very important pawn here. It will be immediately draw. Yeah, this was a surprise for Fischer, definitely. Yeah, Fischer actually admitted after the game he just blundered this move. A very seldom case in the practice of Fischer that he would blunder such idea. And the Botvinnik says right funny thing that right after this move, he jumped to his captain Abramov and whisper on his ear, draw, like like make him happy. Can you imagine? You read the Twinkle Toes yesterday? Yes, not only yesterday, many times. Yes. Why you are you asking Wang Pi or Wong Pi? You are Asian, Chinese origin guy. So H5. Ah, Twinkle Toes is your friend. Okay, perfect. And the funny was that later they heard that Fischer had protest to arbiter that they are cheating. Soviet Union is cheating, and they give moves to Botvinnik. Yeah, but Rook A3 check. Let's see what happened here. King G2 was played. GH. Fischer has to take, otherwise this pawn becomes very strong here. So GH, Rook G5, King D6, Rook B5, H4, F4 here, and King D6. And this was a this already a theoretical drawish position. Before we go back to the main ideas, I want to show you how game was ended. So Rook B8, strong move. H3 check by Fischer. King H2. So King stops this, Rook stops this pawn, and this pawn always distract or Rook or King. That's why it's draw. A5, only chance for Fischer to push it. F5, King goes to C7, Rook B5, King goes to D6, F6 by Botvinnik with idea F7, King E6, stop it, but check on B6, King F7. We see that King is passive now. Rook A6. So Rook is busy, cannot move. Not here, because he loses this or this. So that's why it's that draw. After King G6, Rook D6, A4, Rook A6, King F7 was played, Rook C6. Only chance for black to make this position, but Rook A6, A3, and now King G1. And now only here Fischer agreed to draw. He had like crying face, according to Botvinnik. But they fight not ended only over the board, and the main subject of the negotiations later was King D4 move. So number 51st after King F3. So this will be, yeah. Now you will see what's going on here. That's why it's famous game. So this position, he would blunder H5 move obviously here, and most unpleasant move was King D4. Get rid from fifth rank and then want to play B5. So Rook G6, white has to take this pawn and activate this one. B5, H5, B4, the rush of the pawns. H6 and B3. For example, in case of B3, if black plays Rook H1 here, try to stop it. Then King G2 would be a strong move. Rook H5, then Rook A6, attacking this pawn. B3, rook takes on a7, rook takes on h6, then rook stands behind of pawn on b7, forcing to play king d4 and king f3, and this is theoretical draw. Black cannot do anything here. In best case, they need to lose a lot of tempos to push it, and white will push pawn, then sacrifice this rook for pawn. It will be draw. But this position is a main after b3. And now white has to chase this king after rook g4, because h7 is obviously bad move because of rook h1. Then b2 or a5, a4 is also coming. But very important check here. Rook g4 would be. This is analyzed, by the way. King goes to e5. Rook g5 check. King goes to c6. In case of king b4, there would be rook g7. This idea rook e7 or h7. And in case of b2, h7. Now b1 is even loses because rook b7 we take it and then promote. So rook h1 would be only move, and rook a7 withdraw. And this is also ideal. But king c6, then rook g6 check, king b7, rook g7 check, king goes to a6, rook g6, king a5, rook g5 check, king a4, rook g4, king goes to a3. Looks like white is losing here because h7 is rook h1 and then b2, but rook h4, this was the idea, to stand behind the pawn and close this file. And after b2, h7, can you imagine black promotes first, but it's not winning, h8, this position. What a crazy endgame. And Botvinnik's opinion about this position was that black cannot win here, because this rook is passive due of this king reduces its power. Yeah, we cannot give check from third rank. For example, queen b3 check, king goes to e2, because rook if it goes check, then we escape here. Not immediately, I guess, king g2, because then queen d5 check here, queen d2 and rook from here. So king e2, after queen d1 check, king e3, rook b1. This was last hope here for black. And after queen f8, because no more check, yeah, after queen c3, there will be rook b3 move. Now seems like after rook b3, white is losing. But check on f8, king a2, and he made conclusion in this position that white king cannot be saved. It will be lost position after rook b3 and so on. But it was a wrong conclusion. In this position was very strong move, queen c5. Actually, look at this move. The best square for queen. And this was suited by Master Kremenetsky. He was sent this analysis after queen c5 to the magazine of chess in USSR. 1977. Can you imagine 97? So after 15 years, but young Kasparov, he was 13 years old only. He found a very nice defense here instead of queen e5. Instead of queen f8, I mean, in this position, rook c4, very strong move here he found. And after rook c4, rook b3 check, then rook c3. This is a Kasparov analysis. Queen e1 check, then king d3. We see that both pieces are protecting the rook. And after queen f1 check, king d2, but not king e3 because of all suddenly queen h3 check. Look at this. We have to take and then rook c3 and we win this queen here. What a beautiful check on h3. But king goes to d2, and after queen f2, king d3 is a draw because black cannot exchange. Yeah, because pawn and game is draw. We just keep it here. Very, very interesting, instructive game by Botvinnik. Find some other games. Last time about Botvinnik, we see some games from, yeah, this is a really great game with Petrosyan, if you remember. Showed you some games. Let me choose something. Yes, Queen H3 was very beautiful, no? Really beautiful. Find some interesting game. Yeah, this is his. Do you like horse? Yes, I was playing. I was never playing because my father was playing. He was alive before computer, of course, arrived. This is a positional play. Botvinnik versus Donner. Played in Amsterdam 1 year later. Game. E. Donner. Again, Donner's. Remind me his name. Look at Donner's name. E, I guess. What do you Google? What was Donner's name, guys? Somebody Google. Daniel, hello. What is 420? Ah, so J. Johann Donner, right? This. All right. So d4. Book on. What do you mean? Write something wrong or what? Okay, so knight f6 by Donner. 3, 6, d3, d5. Pretty system by white. But also it reminds us Catalan now. But with d4. Yeah, this is like a mix of Catalan, Tarrasch, and Breti system. Quite popular nowadays too. d3 he played. Catalan would be after d4. d3, d6 by Donner, bishop b2, bishop b7. ed, knight takes on d5. And after ed would be much more complex game because it would be harder to exchange any pieces. So knight d5 by Donner here. e4. White wants to take a space advantage in the center. So, and c5 was played by Donner. And knight d7 was recommended by Simagin with idea c5 here. But 5 directly, this is strong move. Look at this. Both bishops are so active, especially this one. The point that knight d7 was stronger, 5 dc, it would take on 6. Now they need to move and gain with this bishop, which is waste of time. Because of bc, this pawn became weak on d5. We will block it. Okay. Holy Sky, hello. Can you turn your up? I have on maximum. I don't know why you don't hear me. I don't have any idea. Some issues with this microphone. Read the second day. So bishop c5 was played. Knight d2. Yeah, but some guys say that it's fine. Some guys say no. So I don't understand whom to believe. Can you vote maybe? If 3-4 guys say that it's bad sound, then I definitely need to change something. If you guys say that it's okay, then it means that you just need to probably warm up in your computer or mobile phone. I don't know where you listen. The overall volume is low, but the sound is good. What I need higher volume? I don't understand. I have maximum in OBS. I have maximum in this microphone. I cannot scream, right? I don't know what I have to do else. I really don't have any idea, guys. Sorry. So after bishop e5. Yeah, in case of, for example, bishop f6 would be a wrong move here because bishop f6, and after queen f6, knight bd2. It's very bad position for black here. Ashar, thank you for follow. The point is that you have to take and then rook c1 and or queen c2 attack this pawn here. White Donner does simply take on d5. He loses time. And knight b d2 was played by Botvinnik. He simply developed his pieces. Of course, he cannot play knight c3, not allows this exchange. Knight d7 and a3 without a b4 here. And now Donner should play a5. Of course, stop to b4 here. because Botvinnik already had his famous idea here. Positional threat. Play b4, then b5, then knight d4. Exchange these bishops, and this square becomes very weak. We need to remember such ideas. But Donner plays knight f6 here. Immediately, Botvinnik uses this opportunity. Bishop e7. We see that Donner wastes so much time. First he played knight f6, knight d5, and go back. 3 moves. Then bishop 1, 2, 3. It's impossible to play like that in chess and have normal position. Knight d4, strong move. This was the idea of Botvinnik. He exchanged this very active bishop, and this square becomes very weak after that. So knight d4. Bishop takes on g2 here. What else? Because of queen c7, there's rook c1. Queen b8 is just loses after knight c6. Take and lost this exchange. So only move by Donner. g2. Queen c7. He obviously wants to put this queen here and protect this square. Queen b3. A very important maneuver according to Botvinnik. Because after queen b7 he wants to exchange these queens. Then this square will be very, very weak. So rook f d8 was played by Donner. Rook f e1. Queen b7. Queen b3. And he played knight d5, try to avoid queen's exchange. And there was some interesting variation. In case of queen f3, he would take with this knight, beside the knight 6. And after king f8, knight goes to c6 here. We see this so strong knight here. After rook 7, we simply double rooks on e5, and white has very strong pressure on queen side. e5 is a threat, and knight d4 is a threat. We see that black has really big troubles here. That's why Donner not goes to endgame. He puts knight here. This is unpleasant pin. And also, for example, if we place a random move, I don't know, something like h4, then the threat knight e5, queen e4, and then f5. After queen e5, knight f4, and then delivers a mate here for g2. Obviously, Botvinnik is not gonna fall in this after knight d5. He plays e4, close this diagonal, and knight f6. How many moves this knight played? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So out of 19 moves of black, 5 was played with this knight, 3 with this bishop. 1, 1, 3. And b5, strong move here. Obviously fixing this very important square, where after knight 6, this knight will completely dominate with black position. He played a6. In case of knight e5, he wanted to play queen e2 and in some moment play f4. Kick away this knight and then put it here. This was his plan. Maybe anyway Donner should play this, somehow provocate this weakness. Now, unfortunately for him, probably bishop c5 doesn't work because with idea exchange on d4, duel of knight e6, and this is attacked. Thank you for following. Was knight c5 an idea? Let me see. The unpleasant isn't. Thank you, man. Appreciate. 1 second. You mean in this position knight c5? Knight goes to c6. Close this diagonal immediately. And what to do here? a6, f4. And still you cannot do anything. Knight a4 doesn't work. We take, and after ab we take. Also, this is an attack. Knight e5, I guess, was best chances for Donner. I'm doing position. I guess I could play knight e5, queen e2, and then try to find something right here. Maybe knight fd7 with idea f4, provoke this f4, g6, b8 maybe. If this was his chance somehow to try to change this knight, but knight d6 is not necessary to hurry. You can play knight df3, close this diagonal. Then maybe h4, h5, I don't know. But I guess this was the best chance. But he plays bishop c5 here. This position. No, sorry, a6 he played the position. And Botvinnik immediately penetrates on c6 with tempo. And bishop f8. He declined to play bishop c5, duo of knight b3 probably. But still, he should provocate knight here, and then maybe we go back on f8. Not the best square for this knight. So let me understand, what is idea if I take ab, what happens? Understand what's the point? Think for you. After ab, guys. What's the idea? What is this knight b3? Maybe in future he means. Probably first he will play f1, then knight b3, I guess. Leo through. Oh, Leo. Our man, I just realized it's you. Привет. Thank you for donation, man. Appreciate it. Как дела, Лео Трубач? But how can I be closer? I mean, I cannot kiss it, right? Tell Mark, hello. I cannot be closer. I mean, what should I do? Like this or what? Like this? You want me to do like this, maybe? Okay, I will do like this. It's not important to see me, I guess. So, you hear or not? Now it's better. Okay, I will try to do like that then. Probably it was a little bit down. It's become better now. I mean, how much worse? Like you don't hear me at all, or just a little bit less? I don't understand. Because you remember in first days when I had this microphone, I had it same settings, and you never complained. You said that everything was okay. But then I did not change anything, did not touch anything, and you said all suddenly that sound is worse, and I was doing the same, sitting in the same chair, same movements. I don't know. So you hear me now better, right? Thank you, Lorian. Yes, one day I will probably show you my games too, if you really interested. Okay, now sound is good. Okay. Okay, let's go then. This is the maximum what I really can. So guys, I'm sorry. Yeah. So he played immediately bishop f8 here. And what happens? He played a4. Of course, he need to keep this very important base here. This pawn is really, really important. So this knight and this pawn are much stronger than queen, rook, and another rook here. Okay. Okay, Leo. For example, Leo says that I always had good sound. So a4, he takes ab, rook a1, rook a1. Which is a problem of black, right? Because they heavy pieces are inactive, they don't have any plan. These bishops extremely strong. They always some tactical problems. Knight can always jump. Sometimes g4, g5 in future can be. So lots of ideas for white and very hard to find chances for black here. Okay, guys. And rook c8. Obviously, Donner tries to simplicate position in very passive situation, right? He's very passive, so as more pieces he will change, as more easy he will breathe. That's why, logically, Botvinnik avoids rook d1 move. Probably this was a decisive decision in the game. Because this rook, single rook, lonely rook on a file cannot do anything here. And this rook very important in future attack on the d file. Knight e8 was played by Donner to avoid some kind of idea like bishop f6, e5 in future. Knight goes to c4. Very strong position. Now, first very strong threat we want to take, and then fork. Donner has to be careful. He goes knight c5, avoid this rook d7 move. Guys, stop that kind of like gauge ideas. So e5 was played here. So finally, white can not think about control d5 square because knights are gone. Knight not anymore can penetrate here. And he more squeezing space. He wants to play knight d6 later. For example, knight c7 with idea knight d5. Now he loses. Not because of knight e7, bishop e7, queen b7, because knight protects. But rook d7 would be strong move here. And this attacked, queen f7 is the idea. And in case of knight d7, we give check and then take here. Yeah, it closes off a bishop, but it gains more space. And in future, after knight d6 and exchange, it will go here and become very strong passer. This rook d7 was a very beautiful idea. That's why Donner plays rook c8 here. So Donner did not like that there is always some pressure on this rook 2. Some ideas in future like knight b6, knight e7 check, and queen e8, for example. That's why he tries to take away this rook, but that he gives in possession this important a file for rook now. Because he cannot go back. We exchange, then give check on e7 and eliminate this queen here. And rook a7 is mate to queen, is a threat. Rook c7 only move, yeah, to have this square here. And he wins immediately after rook a7 move here. For example, queen c8 loses after knight b6. Again, we catch the queen. And Donner just give it here. And after rook a7, knight b6, he resign. Look at this. It's like Donner just was not doing anything. He was just move left, right, and just resign. Because of knight c7, there will be queen c6, and game is lost. After rook b7, he has knight d7 again. Rook b5, then we take here. Yeah. We see, you have to remember, I also in my career many times used such an idea with b5 knight 6 or b4 knight c3. When you know such ideas, you'll find a plan during your game. Yeah, we cannot keep such. I cannot skip such a game. Botvinnik Petrosyan, always interesting. It was played in Team USSR Championship in 1964. 1964, Botvinnik was 53 years old. 8. Botvinnik, Iran. How to write it? Go. In Moscow. So Botvinnik plays e4 all suddenly. Usually he likes to play c4, d4, and e4 rarely he played. c5 by Petrosyan. We, we see that both of them play very like differently. Usually they play more solid systems. So c5. Knight f3. Knight f6 by Peterson. This is a Akiba Rubinstein idea here. After e5, knight d5, knight c3, e6, it goes to very complicated situations here. d4, then knight 6, d6, and so on. Yeah, both play quite interesting. But Botvinnik played knight c3 in this position. e6, g3. He plays b6, bishop g2, bishop b7, castle. And I guess I lost one game in Turkey last round. Yes, it was this position. I just take it on e4. I was in bad shape. I just take. Then I got in very big troubles. Rook e1 and d4 or d4 and been crushed very easily here. So bishop e7 by Petrosyan. He played b3, d5. Actually showing wrong game, I guess. Second, guys. No, it was another game. I was showing another game, guys. Completely different game I was showing. I was jumped. That game will skip. This game, you will be disappointed, but it was of course played c4 here. c4, c5. I was thinking, what is going on here? How it's possible? They played like that. Knight f3, knight f6 was played. Knight c3, 6, g3, b6, bishop g2. This was the position, of course. Bishop b7, castle, bishop e7. So this English system transposed to kind of like new Indian. And after bishop e7, b3, d5. This well-known position, by the way. Also, white can play in this position d4. It's popular nowadays. I think I played against Nakamura with black this position. And after CD, he takes on d4. We played in Moscow or Petersburg. It was in Petersburg, I guess. St. Petersburg in Blitz World Championship. I guess I played knight. How it was? Maybe castle. Something like this. I guess. Then after a big fight, it was draw. Yeah, this is another idea because usually for black it's good to exchange this bishop and then bring this queen here. And after queen d4, the problem is that this queen loses tempo after knight 6, but white is trying to play against this pawn here. But in this game, Botvinnik plays b3. And after b3, must be careful with making moves. 1 second. Always jumping somewhere. d5 was played. Thank you for following. And e3. A traditional move here, not allow d4. Yeah, now d4 in these positions, Botvinnik says that it's not so good for black because it's some kind of Benoni with reverse color. And also with pawn e6 not so good, yeah, knight e2, Then d3, bishop b2, a3, b4, and this stuff. Bishop on b7 is not the best place for Benoni scam. That's why, of course, Petrosyan don't play it. In that period, theory was recommending knight e4 in this position. Try to exchange pieces on c3, then castle, bishop f6, and so on. But Petrosyan plays, of course, the most natural castle here. Bishop b2 and knight c6. Natural continuation by black. In one of the previous games in this book, he played d3, and I don't remember exactly whom. Maybe, no, once again, in 350, okay, in later games. Maybe we'll see it. And he says that maybe d3 was a more precise move here. But in current game, he take cd here. And he take ed. And there was game between Botvinnik and Polugajewski versus Keres and Prince in Netherlands. 1966 they played. And then knight d5 was played by Keres and Prince. After knight d5, queen d5 was played. d4 and then rook a d8 here. Knight e5, queen d6. After dc, queen c5. And he says that black had a good play here. So in this game, ed, that was actually Botvinnik was counting for, and he played d4 now. Rook e8 was played. For example, there was game between Geller versus Van Schelting, another Holland player, in 1969. So 5 years later of this game, he played queen d7 with the idea to connect rooks. And rook c1 was played by Geller here. And after rook f d8, he take on c5, put knight here, attacking pawn. And after knight e4, knight d2. So he exchanged this defender, and now black has real problems. In case of rook c8, there was knight e5 could move here, putting again more pressure on this pawn. But in this game, Petrosyan plays rook e8. Wants to bring rook here. Rook c1, logical continuation with idea somewhere dc and knight e4, and attacking these hanging pawns. Bishops are ideally placed here, as we see. Sometimes also we can have plan dc, bc, and knight can be transferred to f4. And attacking d5 square, rook attacks c5 square. Rook c8 was played, and bishop h3 by Botvinnik, attacking this rook. The point that probably Petrosyan simply blundered this, because rook c7 he cannot play duel of knight b5, and we catch this rook. For example, bishop c8, it leads to knight c7, bishop h3, and knight e8. Why after bishop h3, Petrosyan played rook b8. Okay, it would be funny, of course. Rook e1 by Botvinnik. The question is, why not? 1 second, let me understand. What would be if he would take here? dc. Obviously, Petrosyan would take bc and knight a4. How Petrosyan was going to defend this pawn? Let's guess. In case of knight e4, we just simply take it and take here. If knight e4, we play knight d2. Want to exchange it. Queen a5, a little bit artificial move. We exchange, and you cannot take with bishop because you lose this pawn. gf, we even don't analyze this. You can penetrate here. Also, this is under attack later. Queen a5 is bad. So this is actually the threat. So what to do here? I don't understand. Knight e4 is only move, I guess. Knight d2, and now what to do? Bishop a6 maybe. That's why maybe he played rook e1. Aha, bishop a6, maybe some tactical ideas here. In case of rook e1, maybe knight b4 suddenly penetrate here. Ah, this was the point. Bishop a6. Can we sacrifice exchange of knight e4? Bishop f1. Play queen f1, d and knight c5. But black is okay here. I guess they can play even knight b4 move or exchange and then knight b4, knight d3. Yeah, this was, of course, double-edged sacrifice. That's why probably Botvinnik played rook e1, and now I guess he's threatening dc, knight a4, knight e4, knight d2. Still knight b4 there, but it's not so strong maybe for black. I guess this was the point, knight e4 move. Okay. And what if he would do in this position actually? dc, bc, and knight a4. Can it be change something for white? Knight e4 and knight d2. Try to attack it. Two pieces. Bishop a6, I guess, anyway. This position looks very suspicious for black. After knight e4. Bishop f1, queen f1, e, and bishop e4. From first sight, looks very, very bad. We already have very strong bishops and pawn. I guess only move is bishop f6. Try to sacrifice one more pawn, but get rid from these strong bishops. But still, I mean, only white is playing here, definitely. Clear advantage. Not much, but instead of bishop h3, natural move, maybe dc, bc, knight a4 was stronger. What was Petrosian move? Because knight e4, I will play h3, or even take on f6 and take on c5. Does Petrosian has better moves than knight e4 here? Adopt. Knight d2. What else here? For example, knight b4 is interesting move here. Knight b4 in this position probably, yeah, because bishop protects this pawn, rook protects this pawn, and also knight d3. Let's continue with knight e4, d, queen g4, attacking here, attacking here. Also rook d1 I want to play, so bishop f6 looks logical. But this is bad. We just take and take on c5. And g6 would be probably the move. Still, I do like black's position here. Rook d1 I played. You cannot play here because of bishop e4 with in. Then where to put this queen? On c7, I guess. And rook d7. No, this looks very dangerous for black. I don't know. Knight e4 and queen g4, very strong move here. Bishop f8 maybe is an option. But then knight c5. Using that after h5, knight b7, this under attack. I think white has a big positional advantage here. I don't know, guys. I think DC and knight f4 was strong. Let's just ask computer. I'm just curious what it will say here. Bishop h3, I guess inaccuracy here. Okay, I want to see this position. DC, knight a4. How computer will rigged here? Bishop a6 immediately it says. This I did not see. And rook e1, c4. Because knight e4, knight d2, I guess this is bad position. Yeah, it's +1 already. Look at this. After knight b4 only move, knight e4, d, and what he says. Queen g4, yeah. Queen g4 strong move here. g6 is I guess only move. Bishop f, yeah, this is big advantage. Thank you for following. But I missed that he has immediately bishop a6 strong move here. This was point. After rook e1, now knight b4 we cannot play, yeah, because of bishop f6, I guess. Still, it's not clear. But c4 is possible. Okay, interesting. e8. Computer says knight e5, f4, but I do like this line. All right, let's continue. Yeah, bishop a6 immediately very strong. Bishop h3, rook b8. Now this bishop a little bit out of game here. Rook e1, that's why Botvinnik played. And now he threats dc and knight a4 definitely. That's why black is using a nice moment to trade on d4. Thank you for following. Welcome, people. Because the point that after ct, white has to take it with a pawn. In case of knight d4 here, there would be knight d4, queen d4 and bishop c5 here. Very unpleasant move. And after queen h4, then d4, strong move here. Or suddenly black is very active here. And in case of rook e d1, there would be d sacrifice here. And after rook d8, ef. And this was very dangerous for white. After king f1, rook b d8, bishop a6, this threat. Yeah, this would be extremely dangerous position. That's why after CD he played with ed. Could Botvinnik take on c5 and then play rook e1? That's my question. Maybe d4 now. But I have knight e4. What we do in this position? This is under attack. The rook e3 is nicely protects. What else black has in this position? Maybe or suddenly bishop a6 would be strong move here. With idea c4 and an attack on b3 square. Also knight b4 is, and we can transpose to this position. Yeah, I guess bishop a6 would be a strong move here. That's why Botvinnik keeps center. Rook e1, cd, nice move, ed. And Petrosyan plays bishop b4, try to simplify position, pinning the rook and forcing to take on e8, queen e8, and now Botvinnik played a3. Yes. And now he plays committing decision here. That it was natural to take on c3 here, with following knight e4, and black would have excellent play, because it was very hard to prove that a couple of bishops are better than knights here. Later we can even transpose this bishop here or here, rook c8. Yeah, but instead he played bishop f8. And now white will have opportunity to finally capture this e5, very important square for his knight. So he plays queen d3, strong move, with obviously a reason to play rook e1. And this bishop does very good job, not allows this queen d7, rook e8 idea. g6 was played by Petrosyan. Sorry, probably he wants to play bishop g7 later. Rook e1, logical continuation, queen d8 and knight e5. Now we see that white has much more simple and free game here. They put in pressure in the center, and they possess initiative, definitely. Bishop g7 was played, f3. And Botvinnik, after 95, he gives the instructive comment. The classical example of play in such positions would I would recommend to see game Samuel Reshevsky white against Salo Floor. It was played in 1938, so you can Google that game and see it, or better try to find with annotations. f3 he played, control this square. Salomon Floor, yes. So he says that white already achieved something here. They centralized this knight and also control this important square. And the secondary problem for black is they, for them, it's very hard to bring this rook in the action on the e8 square. For example, after queen c7, there will be knight b5 all the time. We see that this bishop reduces so much squares. It doesn't give for this rook. Knight a5 played by Petrosyan. He also finds some weakness here. Queen d1 by Botvinnik protects. a6 he was played, probably with idea queen c7, and finally play with rook e8 and not allow this knight b5 here. And what do you think? What positional idea he played here? What? How would you play? Imagine you're Botvinnik. You always have to try to play against opponent, squeeze his chances. Uh, before his positional mistake, because we need to control this square. Like positional mistake would be f4 instead of f3, because control this. After knight c4, it's only black is better here, because we never can take. This bishop activates. Don't touch this pawn. You must always avoid play such moves which gives such a holes in your position. Because like as a compensation, your knights never can penetrate to the same symmetrical square, because this pawn holds. It would be sometimes good if this pawn would be here and knight already here. Bishop c1, bishop f4. We can also play queen. Okay, you want to do it against queen c7, but after queen c7 you are under attack here. Queen 7 will be with tempo after bishop c1. And then rook goes to e8. Knight a2 he played. Look at this move. Very interesting move. So he wants to play knight b4 and cut off this knight out of game. That's why Petrosyan instantly goes back. Knight c6, he not allowed knight b4. But bishop c3 played. And he again wants to play knight b4. And the point that he wants to exchange this knight, very active knight on c6, because this is very passive, reduce it by these two pieces. And after he wants to exchange this, because then he will never think about a trade on e5, and this knight becomes more active here, much more unpleasant. Petrosyan cannot do anything against that. I mean, he can play a5, but this weakness b5 square. So he played queen c7 first. Queen d2 by Botvinnik. Instantly knight b4 would be blunder after knight e5, and we lost this bishop. So queen d2. a5 he played this position. I assume after knight a5 he would play queen b2 here, in my opinion. And then knight b4. That's why a5, Petrosyan understood. He great positional player. We see how two great position players are playing. They're trying to use little nuances in the game. This is very important to remember. Bishop b2. Now knight wants to go back probably to this square. Or also this idea. Yes, guess. You are on the right path with your guess. Queen d6 was played by Petrosyan because he don't want to allow probably rook c1, very unpleasant pin here. Queen d6 directly. Knight c1 he played because knight c3. Black would definitely play bishop a6, control this square. So he transfers to knight c1. He wants, I guess, play knight d3, exchange it, and go knight e5. Hello, Reza. How are you doing? Bishop c8 played by Petrosyan. Finally, they kick away this very annoying bishop from this diagonal. Of course, white avoiding to exchange this bishop. But this bishop will go to e6 and we will be much more active than on b7, which it looks only to this pawn. Bishop f1 by Botvinnik. Bishop e6. Knight e3. So both players are trying to improve their pieces. Knight e7 by Petrosyan. So what is the plan of Botvinnik here? What do you think? Think 2 minutes. Don't give me answer in 2 seconds. two great players are playing. Try to think like not like tactical ideas, but like plan. Ask yourself, what can you improve? What is your plan? What you can do, and so on. So you think a4 and then with idea bishop a3. But how you will do it? You want to play a4, then rook a1 and bishop a3? But while you will do it, I will play rook c8 here, then queen c7 and captures this c file after that. Also can put knight here, attacking this pawn. Yeah, it's at least something. Yeah, already some ideas in your mind. This is good. But Botvinnik plays. We just seen the game against Donner. What plan he made in that game? So can he do the same here? What do you think? If you just remember the game, the previous game, what we see against Donner, which plan he played, he made in the game? What do you think, guys? Yes, exactly. B4. Look at this move. Very strong move b4 here, guys. Because after this move, he will play b5 and capture this very important square. The point that Petrosyan take AB, and now he don't have this b5 move, yes, because after knight c5, he look at these knights, two active knights, and black cannot compensate with knight on c4 because he never can reach it. This bishop also attack this pawn. This is under attack. This would be a clearly big advantage after b5. Otherwise, white will play b5 with either knight b4 and then penetrate here. And also in future, you also have this idea: rook a1, bishop a3, or just penetrate here. You see how important to know such a games like against Donner. So for Botvinnik was very easy to find this idea because he already played it few times in his career. Knight e8. Petrosyan did not find any arguments what to do here, so he played knight e8. He regrouped his pieces. Maybe in future he wants to play knight c7 and kick out this knight finally from this avant-post on e5. But after e6, of course, a position on near king side will be weak. Also, bishop will be dead. b5 was played, and now duo of very unpleasant threat, knight b4, then knight c6. Petrosyan is forced to play f6 here. But as I mentioned before, e file will be very weak, and bishop is inactive after this move. He plays knight g4. Of course, bishop g4 is bad. After fg, then we can change our accent to g2 diagonal, h1 a8 diagonal, attack this pawn here. Bishops will be extremely strong. Then will be also idea fg, bishop g2, queen b2, exchange the queens, knight b4, and then attack this from different sides. was it idea of queen b4, but the point that he would not change himself. He would play knight e8 definitely here, and then b4 idea doesn't have continuation, logical continuation, like in the game. Later we can play queen d8, knight d6, knight c4 here. So white also has to be careful. ab, knight e8, b5, and forcing f6 move here. Knight g4. The idea now, bishop c3, bishop b4, definitely. Bishop d7 was played by Petrosyan, attacking the pawn. He played bishop c3 with idea bishop b4, because we cannot take bishop b5, bishop b4, and then we win this knight. We see how slowly, white is squeezing more and more space here. Knight a5, Petrosyan. Finally, he crossed the third rank with first piece, I guess, in the game. Look at this knight f5. If we only once he maybe played bishop b4 before and then retreat. And knight f4. The point that he wants to play bishop b4, kick away this queen, and then win this pawn. And knight c7 loses the queen. Doesn't have moves. We see how all suddenly first black had positional problems, and now positional problems transforms to the tactical problems because of the weakness of d5 square and very discoordinated pieces. All pieces are, they look like you know, like atolls in ocean, so far from each other, a little, and they're not coordinating here. Queen f8 was played. Bishop f8 with idea not allow bishop b4, loses immediately after knight d5. Because queen d5, rook e8. No time for queen f3 because rook b8. In case of rook e8, there is a fork, and we take this queen. That's why Petrosyan didn't find anything better than play queen f8. We see how white pieces all are coordinated so perfectly. He simply takes a pawn. And as often happens, positional advantage transforms to the material advantage too. King h8. Queen f7 was losing game immediately after bishop c4 because there is a check. We cannot play bishop e6 because of rook e6, queen e6, and knight b6 and win this queen. In case of king h8, same knight b6 idea, protect the bishop, win the game. That's why Petrosyan immediately goes king h8. Bishop b4, attacking the queen. Queen f7, knight jumps to e7, knight goes to d6, knight takes on a5, this is attacked, knight takes on 5, and d5. So white is dominating completely over black, and also they have a pawn up here. Rook e8. Now we see perfectly from whom Karpov learned the domination. We remember that also Karpov, when he was kid, he was also in Botvinnik school, like Kasparov later years. Rook e4. And the funny was that Kasparov, not Kasparov, Botvinnik about Karpov, when he was kid, he never considered him like he will be a big player. Can you imagine how mistaken he was? So h5, knight f2. Rook d8 was played by Petrosyan. And this from first sight natural continuation, try to block this pawn, leads to completely losing position. And game was adjourned, and he was analyzing only bishop h6 move here with example variation queen d3, bishop e3, and now g4 is not possible, unfortunately, for white, because after ag, fg, black has all suddenly this tactical idea. If queen b5, then rook e4 here, and after rook e8, queen e8, queen b5. He takes on f2, then give check, then give check, and it will be draw. This perpetual check and go check back here. But yeah, this was the idea. And after king g, in case of king g2 here, play bishop c5 here. Bishop c5, bc, queen c4, and white still holds a big advantage, but it would be still a long game. But instead world champion plays rook d8. The game is played in 1964, and Botvinnik lost to him in 1963. And what happened here after rook d8? He played bishop c4, this position. Probably he wants to push forward. Bishop e8 was played by Petrosyan. d6, queen d7, attacking the pawn. Rook goes to e1. Sorry. Guys, sorry. Always mixing notation. Bishop c8, of course, he played. d6, queen d7. Rook e1 was played. And bishop b7. О, Петя, спасибо. Привет, как поживаешь? Guys, Peter Swidler just raided me. Thank you. Спасибо, Петя. Как дела у тебя? Ну идешь спать, да? Спокойной ночи. Guys, don't forget to follow Swidler. We have, unfortunately, he is going to sleep, and he wished me a good dream, and to all of us, of course. Good night, Петя. So bishop b7 was played in this position. The point that we cannot take on d6 here, because after knight d6 we simply exchange everything on d6, and then we give this check and take this bishop, as we see. Petrosyan, that's why he played bishop b7 with idea to take on d6, and also this is attacked. But unfortunately, no time for that, because Botvinnik played knight e4, close this bishop, and also protects this pawn. Petrosyan did not find anything better than take on e4, rook e4, and knight d6 he played this position. Thank you for following, by the way. I guess in case of h7, Petrosyan, maybe what would happen after king h7? Maybe this was a good way. Vilarion. Oh, hello. Maybe bishop d5 would be the move here. Eliminate this bishop. We cannot take on b5 because of bishop b7. No more bishop e4. Bishop e6 is nice move, but we don't take it here, but we take here. So bishop d5, I guess, and we no more. Black is no more threatening against this pawn, and white slowly will convert this game, like g2 or something slowly. That's why Petrosyan played bishop e4, rook e4, and takes on d6. This was his hope. But this was actually a blunder in analyze. But anyway, it was nothing to do, because bishop f8 was losing because of rook e6 here, and Petrosyan could not take on d6 here, because after knight d6, bishop d6, we distract this queen from 7th rank and give mate here. That's why when he analyzed, probably he had hope for this move, but unfortunately it doesn't work, because queen takes now, and queen d6 not possible in this position. Duel of check, and we win this rook or win this queen. Thank you for following. And that's why he played after bishop d6, bishop f8, And he played rook d4, and rook e6 also was possible. We already seen a variation after bishop d6, rook d6, and mate on h6. And in case of king h7 here, there would be bishop f8, beautiful move. Queen d2 only move. Then rook e7 check. Then we give check here. Bishop controls this important square. Then we give this check. Then we give check again. And the point that king g5 is a mate in 1, and after king h7, bishop c3, and we win this queen here. And we have a piece and pawn up. Game is over. Would be beautiful finish, but he played rook d4. Now again we cannot take because take and mate. He played king h7, and he take on f8. But not bishop e5, a huge blunder, because after bishop c5, it's black all suddenly who has huge chances to win. Bishop f8, of course, queen d4, take. And the problem is that if it would be a situation without these pawns, then it would be most probably draw. But now, unfortunately, these pawns are decisive factor, and bishop easily can protect this, and this bishop will attack all the time, this pawn. He played bishop f1, of course. So now white's plan is just deliver this bishop to this diagonal. Black cannot do anything against that. g5 was played. Bishop a3. We see that rook e6, and that variation what he showed was much more precise play, but this is just also hopeless. Rook d1. Petrosyan not allows this bishop transfer, controls this square. But king f2, king g7, bishop b4. He wants to play bishop e1 now. Oh, 1 second. What he wants to play? Yes, he wants to play against bishop e1, then bishop e2, and then if rook goes here, bishop goes from this, and if the rook goes there, then king g2 and bishop f2. This is his idea. So h4 was played. This diversion does not change anything. You just take it. Rook d4, bishop e1, rook takes on h4, king g3 protects, of course, the pawns. Rook d4, bishop f2. So the main task is accomplished here. Rook d1 was played, bishop d4, rook d6. So this rook became very passive. He needs to control this. Now f4. The second plan. We open position, then king will go to center. Thank you for following. Yeah, also without king even position is winning, because the point that white is opening up this diagonal, and he wants to transfer bishop from here or from here to f3, and then c6 cut off this rook from b6 pawn. In case of king will run to 7, then g pawn or f pawn becomes weak, and we will eat. So position is totally hopeless. King g6. Yes, that's the idea. You have to remember such ideas. And fg, and Petrosyan take fg and resign himself, because king g5 is a strong passer, and now his plan bishop e2, then whatever you play, no matter, bishop f3, then bishop 6, rook d3 with idea bishop b6, and rook b3. We can win with king g2, bishop 6, or even take rook b3 and then give check, and then b6, and it just goes. This is our monsters.